Hello, folks. This is my Magsorc PvE build. It's a fair, probably, this was my first DPS that I played on a lot. And I went away from him for a while, went back to Templars, and I decided to eventually come back to him and play around him and see what I came to do. Uh, there are definitely Magsorc builds out there that are going to do more damage than this one, but for range damage, I really like this setup. And generally, it's a fairly quick, simple rotation. You're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons with the ulti, with a proc. And the proc is crystal frags. Overall, it's a really quick, fast rotation, fairly good sustain, and I just like it a lot. So let's dive straight into it. Um, on this build for the sets, we are running Maelstrom's Lightning Staff. I could run the Maelstrom Perfected Inferno Staff, and you would get more damage. You would get more damage from the Maelstrom Inferno Staff. It's simply that I haven't wanted to go back and create it again. But you don't need it. It will give you more damage, but it's not necessary. You do want to make sure that you have the infused weapon trait with the weapon damage enchant, and then the other one of the other sets that we're using is Medusa, precise lightning staff with a flame enchant. The reason we're running Medusa is we get all this lovely crit, plus we gain minor force, so there's no need to run accelerate from the Sigil line or barb trap from the Fighters Guild. Where for our jewelry, which is all Medusa, is currently Bloodthirsty. Technically speaking, though, you will get more damage if you run all infused, because while Bloodthirsty, you get a whole lot of damage towards the end of the life of an enemy and the end of a fight. At the beginning, you're not doing near as much as you are with infused. So over the course of an entire fight, infused does give you slightly more damage than Bloodthirsty does. But if you don't want to swap out Bloodthirsty or for infuse, you don't have to. I might at some point just to see what it'll do, but overall the percentage difference is only like 3 or 4 percentage points, I think. The other set that we're running is Sororia, which it drops from Cloud Rest, and we're running this because you're going to get a little circle to stand in, and that's once you have 10 light or heavy attacks, which if you're doing your rotation and your light attack weaving, that's really easy to keep it up. You're going to get an extra 520 weapon and spell damage, which is a lot. On this build, we're running 7 light armor pieces because of the light armor passives. That for every piece of light armor, you get extra crit rating. Every 216 crit rating counts as 1% crit, and also it gives us extra spell penetration. Again, we're running all divine with the Thief Mundus. The monster set that we're using right now is Zons because it has a really good proc, really good single target. They're going to be changing this in the new update, but from what it looks like, it's still going to do a lot of damage. It's just instead of it being a single target proc, it's going to be a multi-target proc, and you're going to have an extra AoE that you're running, which is going to be really nice. Like I said, all divine with the thief, so that way we can get, let me bar swap real quick, that lovely spell critical chance. You want to keep it about 60%. I wouldn't drop any lower than 59% if you're raising up your spell damage. Now, for champion points with this build, we are going with Fighting Finesse and Backstabber for crit damage. You almost never have too much crit damage. And we are running Deadly Aim because we have a lot of single targets, and we are running Master at Arms for direct damage. I have tried biting aura, but I hit a little bit harder with Master at Arms and Deadly Aim than I do biting aura. That's just me, though. You might find that you don't want to run, that you might want to take Fighting Finesse off and run biting aura instead. Any combination of, these 5 champion points here, for the most part, will give you really good damage. What I have found is that Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, Fighting Finesse, and Backstabber thus far have given me the best results. Inside the mini tree, you want to get this arm right here for the magic, and that's all you need from that, though the points wherever else you can shove them. When you go over into the red tree, I run this for a little bit extra sustain in combat, and then I run these three because I just find that they are the best for staying alive and for helping you with sustain, because you get armor, you get health, and you get some sustain, which is always nice. Green tree, it's whatever you want it to be. Skills. So, with this, it's a fairly simple rotation. This is a dual pet Sorc, although if you want to swap off this one for, say, Degeneration on the front bar and then an Execute, go right on ahead. It's not a necessity to have. I like it because it adds a little bit extra damage without really having to think about it too much. And your rotation is just Unstable Wall of Elements, Light Attack, Lightning Flood, Light Attack, Daedric Prey, Light Attack, Summon Volatile Familiar, so you're going to proc your pet, which gives you another AoE, and then Force Pulse until you proc this. Whatever skill you happen to proc this with, hit Crystal Frag, and then go back to wherever you're at in your rotation. Greater Storm Atronach is going to be the ulti that you're going to use probably the most, at least for single target, multi-target using Thunderous Rage. Remember, Wall of Elements, you're getting extra damage from your Maelstrom weapon. And then Lightning Flood is a standard Magsorc AoE damage. It's really good. This gives you a nice damage over time to other enemies, and it gives you a nice general burst hit of 10k, but what's really nice about it is that your pets are going to do 20% more damage for 6 seconds, which really adds up over time, especially considering the Storm Atro counts as a pet, and he's going to do 20% more damage over time. Again, proc this pet, so that way you get your AoE off, and then this is your main spammable. Light Attack, hit this, Light Attack, hit this, Light Attack, hit this, until you proc this, or this has to be reapplied. And that's the rotation. It's 1, 2, 3, bar swap, 1, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, bar swap back, 1, 2, 3, bar swap, there you go. And then drop your Storm Atro whenever it comes up. For food, I always run Ghastly Eyeball. Now, I know there are those who are going to say, run Witch Mother's Potent Brew or Clockwork Citrus. First off, Clockwork Citrus is extremely expensive, and Witch Mother's, yeah, okay, you get a little bit more health, but doesn't really help you that much. You're going to lose your sustain, and you can't do damage if you don't have sustain. So my solution for that is I keep the Parse Food on, and if I need, because I will admit this character has 19k health. Now in most trial situations they're going to say 18k plus and you're good, but let's say you're in a dungeon and you're having a little bit of problem with survivability. Well, you're running 1400 magic recovery. You can swap that out and drop that down to about 1100 to 1200, or you can go and throw this on. You now have, you lose the proc of Zons, and that's really it. You still get your max magic, you still get your magic recovery, you still get your crit, or you still get your spell crit, you still get your spell damage, you get most of your spell pin, but now your resistances are higher, you have 23,000 health, and you're a lot more survivable. And you get that extra health recovery from Gaze of Sithis. That's why I tend to, that's my solution for if I need more survivability. I throw on Gaze of Sithis and take away part of a monster set, so I run a mythic and one-piece monster set. If you prefer to do something different for your survivability and it works better for you, then by all means do it. I'm just saying that is what I have found works for me, because I like having sustain, because I can't do DPS while either dead or without resources. Now, for if you're running a DPS test And we'll dive into the rotation in a minute, and I'll show you how it actually works, because you are going to have to do some heavy attacks about every every other rotation or every 3 rotations to keep your magic up, which does lower your DPS a little bit, but you'll see that it still hits pretty hard. You can pre-buff the Twilight, which is this winged one right here, and it's square on mine, which, other than buffing the Twilight Tormentor once, pre-buffing with it, I personally do not find it worth using more than that. After that, just go straight into the rotation of 1, 2, 3, bar swap, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, hit it when it procs, and you'll see what I mean by that. Again, light attacks between each one of these abilities. And overall, that's it. It's actually a really simple build. One thing to note is that with Sororia, you are going to see a circle on the ground that you have to stay in to keep that extra 500 weapon and spell damage. But since this is a ranged build that can hit out to 18 meters, because that's the distance of Wall of Elements, you can afford to stand in one spot a little bit more because it's a ranged build. And I have found that with ranged builds, Sororia works really well. If you're having to move a lot, Sororia, while it gives you a nice boost on a target dummy, isn't really useful in combat because you're having to move. Since you have range with this guy, you can stay further back and not take as much damage and be able to stand still inside that Sororia circle, which isn't as small as it seems, but it does limit your movement. And if you don't want to run Sororia, just swap Sororia out for Mother Sorrow or Diamond's Victory, but then you're going to have to throw a skill on there that procs Diamond's Victory. But generally, that is the overall build itself. A lot of this build is just in the rotation. Your light attacks are going to do the most damage, followed by Crystal Frag, but that doesn't mean that you need to be spamming Crystal Frag, because it's expensive and it's a little bit wonky because it has a slight cast time if it's not procced. And when it's procced, it turns to pink. But that's the hardest part about this also, is when you're running through the rotation, you just look for Crystal Frag to proc, hit it as soon as it procs, go back to where you were in your rotation, drop your Storm Atro, and there you go. Alright, so let's show you how it works. Go ahead and hit the potion, pre-buff that one pet, and here we go, right into the rotation. There's Zons, and if you notice, I don't know if you can see it under the green circle, but that circle that's on the ground there, that is Sororia. That's the area you have to stand in to keep your bonus up. And we're going to have to do a heavy attack at the end of this rotation, just to keep our magic up. There we go. And there's your Sororia circle. While the instinct may be to dump magic out at the opening of this, you want to be careful about doing that, because you could reach the end of your fight and have no magic left to do damage. So it's really finding that sweet spot about where, for you personally, you like throwing that heavy attack to keep your sustain up. See, I slowed down on that rotation there, but that's okay. Again, this is not, you're not trying to, burn the computer alive with the rotation. It's more of just, this rotation has a little bit of leeway in it, which it was built that way on purpose. So you don't have to get it perfect. It's not like with a Stamplar and Reliquin. See, I almost went for one rotation too long, and now I'm going to have a magic restore problem. Okay, potion got me out of it. But that was far closer than I would like it to have been. Because we got a potion coming up, we are going to rely on it. We're going to hit a heavy attack on our next rotation. Heavy attack on the next rotation. I'm going to potion off. Heavy attack at the end of... Oh, no. And there you go, 76,913.6. Again, like I said, there are Magsorcs out there that'll do more, but I like this because it's got a really simple, quick rotation. You've got some pretty good range. I could hit that same number standing all the way back here, all the way back over here. As long as the enemy can be touched by your wall of elements, that's really all that matters. So you definitely have some nice range with this setup. Anyways, I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Have a great day.